one of the reasons that I wanted to do this one is because we're talking about initiation and it's a big subject. You've got good material with the Bailey material and then throw in life and teaching, so on and so forth. But it's still relatively new to humanity. You know, we weren't given this concept 2,000 years ago to be working on. And it's when you had the Theosophical Society, all of this was, at least from DK's position, daily material. And I don't argue with the point that they misused it, misunderstood it, because they were within the societal groupings in the Theosophical group. There was societies here in the United States, and there were in Europe, and they were very popular in Europe. But the closer groups were anointing themselves as masters and this and that. You know, and that, so the reason Bailey shifts over and they go in that direction is they pull away from the Theosophical Society. And so even when I started, which would have been 40 some odd years later or something, this was very talking even about initiation, or if you had one or you had some experience, was a no-no. And for example, with Michael Robbins, that publicly was never discussed. I think I've heard that they discussed it in private in the back room.
Of course.
Who were there, about so-and-so had this initiation or that initiation, but it was never spoken in public and he never pushed it. It was just a no taboo. So nobody was supposed to know if anybody else had had these experiences, because they made themselves kings and queens, so to speak, in ranking or whatever, which is not the case. So it kind of got lost by the wayside. It is the last book, you know, and so it had never really been addressed till that book was published in 1950, and she started in publishing in 22. So it's been hidden, but I think people misunderstand it also. And so I wanted to talk just a little bit more about it, and people having that experience or what it's like without, because we are also coming from the age of Pisces now into the age of Aquarius. In the age of Pisces, you had to be perfect. But whose design were we talking about for perfection? The church? You know, the right and wrong, yeah, I can understand that. And treating people kinder and better. Okay. Because you certainly didn't have that 2,000 years ago either. You know, your social structures were wealth and peasants. And there were certainly different behavior patterns for both of them, but we never looked at everybody as equal, etc. Does that make sense to you, Donnie? Anybody else?
Yes.
So you know, when you look in cosmic consciousness, and you've got the chart of all of the different senses and uses of our senses that give us different experiences. And he has this little cosmic consciousness epiphany that comes, and he's indicating that it comes only in, but a very few in thousands. And it's lasts anywhere from a couple minutes to a couple hours, and it goes away by itself, just fades away. But he indicates this is what is dawning on humanity's just dawning and becoming part of us, like our vision came at some point. Then you could see what 3 colors during Aristotle, I think, were only mentioned in all of the works up to that period of time. Now we see 7 colors, and there's a number of people out there who are have etheric vision in the realm of colors. And those are far more vital than probably the ones here. So what I'm saying is that this experience, the journey was made by somebody initially. Okay. Now the reason with DK, he will indicate to you that Christ was the first human born on this planet who made the full journey. That's why he is hailed like he is, and why it's so important to understand who he is. Okay. I don't know if any of you have any kind of psych backgrounds or whatever, but in psychology, they talk about if there is a breakthrough. I think they were studying monkeys at this point in time. And I don't know. I don't think the monkey was called Lucy, because I think the Lucy one, when they were teaching her to talk. But they had discovered that there was one monkey who I think took the arm bone of some dead animal, it was the bone, and used it like a hammer or something to that effect. It's been a long time since I've been through those studies. That was a breakthrough, to which then every other one in that pack started doing the same thing, because that's the way we are as humans. And I'm looking at a long extension between the monkey and us, but somewhere along the line, the learning curves and stuff transition to where we are. So the point was, Christ was the one who made it all the way through and is significant, which means the point I'm making is everybody else can do it. Okay. It's just a matter of doing it at that point. It's open to you. And this is something that you make your own commitment. It's your choice. You appoint yourself. And the commitment's your own commitment to yourself. And that was, I think, a little bit of the attitude even during the late Theosophical Society was, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if it would be me, or I could have that experience. But they did not understand it's your own commitment. It is your journey. You'll take it eventually, until everything is evolved and we get ready to go into the 3rd system. Okay. And we're in the 2nd solar system right now. So, but the point is, in a sense, it's not a big deal. When you make the choice, you just decide you're going to go through the journey. So, Donnie, say something, because I imagine you have something to say.
I think this is a really, as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, this is really important for a lot of people who haven't heard this yet, and who probably have some background, who are coming in, and for this time. And then also with this 4th ray, DK says that etheric vision will become, I don't know how to say it. It's going to come out. It'll make itself more prevalent. Which is technically, and it says at the start even of the 4th ray coming in, which is technically this year. So we're right on time in terms of people needing this information, I think, because what the heck are you thinking if you're starting to experience these chakras moving and you're sitting in the middle of a Christian church and your Ajna center starts moving around and you're going, well, hey, this is something ain't, this isn't normal here. So people need to hear this, because you automatically then know, oh, wait, this isn't what these people are, what's being said outright. I'm reading it in these books and this seems to make sense, but the way it's being explained doesn't make sense. So talking about it out openly, it's so simple in my now to say, oh, well, you have these 7 centers, and every time you move through them and things shift and events shift, patterns change, life changes a little bit. There's going to be an outward expression that's a little bit different during this time. It's all very simple once it's presented to everybody, but it just isn't talked about in that way.
And probably for the most part, not experienced by that many people yet, but it certainly has to in the Aquarian age. But the other thing is with the Piscean age and the counter side of that, the Piscean Christ would be on the Pisces end, the Virgo end would be us as humans, which is the opposite. You got to perfect yourself. Okay, that's the sign of Virgo represents. Then you go into kind of perfect yourself. And so there's a lot of self-deprecation. Oh, it couldn't be me. I'm not ready for that. And humbling, and DK mentions it because you really deny, he didn't like the humbling that way, because you deny your entry on the path. And so now you self-deprecated God, if you will, within you, because God is truly within you. There is no question about it. You're going to hear it from everybody, but it is true. Okay. How can it not be true? It's your creator. He created it all. And when you get to the life and teachings, and they're discussing some of the healing and stuff with Jesus in there as the Christ and how he did it. I mean, all of that, those formulas and everything are in those books. And he said, I didn't go to heal somebody, or I think he even talks about Lazarus. He says, but I wasn't working to heal a particular, okay, I got a bad knee, joint over here in my arm, and that I'm going to fix it for this guy. What it says in there is Christ had indicated, I see him and I ask in that healing process, I ask my Father to bring that man up to his perfection that he was created by initially when the whole universe was created, because they're basically saying every one of us in perfection was created then. And that was the state that Christ was asking that whoever he was working with be brought to that state. It's not, oh, fix his leg, he's got a bad knee joint down here or whatever. He was asking for full perfection for that person through God. My Father and I are one. So anyway, I don't know if you caught that in Life and Teachings, Donnie, but it's there.
Yeah.
So, so we're all there. We've come down the cycle that you'll get in Blavatsky, the involution, because we're in a process of creation and we're creating consciousness in this second solar system. That's what we do. Without beating a dead horse, you go into physics of consciousness, and he, as a physics teacher for starters, who had the epiphany of seeing how it all works in here, this creation of consciousness, Then it took him 40 years to get the book out because you can't, anything like that, there aren't the words for it to really put it together. It took him that long to do it. And if he wasn't before, he certainly ended up being a Renaissance man in that book, of which there are not that many, and a very kind person, extremely kind. And he lived on the East Coast, so some of the groups over there were able to benefit from working with him on a more of a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So, and he is not with us anymore, but and that book was published in the year 2000. So again, and he had that epiphany. It's in his book of walking across the campus. He was going home, I guess, football field, whatever. And he just saw it all, exactly how it all worked together. In one very, and then you see it. That's the way that works. And he said he came into class Monday and started talking to his students, and they had no clue what he was talking about. Absolutely none. And like I said, it took him 40 years to get the book out, to really put it all together in words that you could get translated down here. So those patterns happen. And he had stated, interestingly enough, because they talk sometimes about a little bit of a group initiation. Okay, you're going to see that every once in a while. And what I thought was interesting, because my mentor's books were all given to me when she died. And so she had notes in there, and she had dates of when things had happened, so on and so forth. And she had one of her major events happen the same year this guy did. Now, they didn't know each other. Their paths never crossed. But to me, when they talk about some group initiations other than initiation 1 and 2, those would have been done on a higher plane. And you may well have had a group who were ready, who didn't know each other, weren't working with each other every day or anything like that, but on a larger scale, all took that little jump up, whether it's an etheric vision or whichever ways it can get to you. So, but the point is, this is a normal thing. The guy in Cosmic Consciousness said it's in one and a few now, and he said eventually you'll have it at the age 3.
Yeah.
Just like the sight. They saw 4 colors. Now we see 7, and some people already have etheric vision that see in the etheric and see those colors and auras, etc., etc. In their sight, they see it. Other people don't see it.
For a long time, they had, another reason this is important to talk about is for a long time in the United States, especially when people do start having these experiences, they are ridiculed and put down or written off as, having some sort of psychological break or down or something, maybe a breakup. But in India, and because they've been doing this for so long, the signs over there are recognized, and there's a system basically ready to collect people up and bring them down to the guru and help them on the path. But we haven't had that here necessarily, so it's important. It's important here. And I'm personally invested in that technically, because I was seen as crazy too by a bunch of people.
Have they changed their mind yet?
Yeah, I think it did actually. A lot of them, maybe not all of them, but the people that I've been around a lot, yeah, and the funny thing about that is, and DK writes about it, is they eventually start to see these things as well. And and then they talk about it like they are experience for the first time. And it's like, okay, well, you don't remember that like 7 years ago we had this conversation, so it took 7 years for it to settle into them. And but they're talking about it now. And so it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's contagious.
Oh, it most certainly is.
Yeah.
That is the other thing. It is contagious. So, um, also, the chart that you have on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. I look at that as that is the map that much of humanity who's made this journey has followed those steps. Okay. And that is the easiest way through. You won't get lost. Okay, because understanding you're looking at 14 plus, let's take the top of the mental plane permanent atom line. You're looking at 15 different subplanes that you're going to go through. Okay, well, you can get lost on a given subplane where this journey takes you from, actually, you're starting at the third. They say the third is the first one. So you're on the third, you have the conscious connection with the soul. Then you go up to the top of the mental plane. You'll go through those subplanes and whatever. You'll hit the permanent atom. That's the mental permanent atom. And then you've already pitched your journey with the anakarana that you are building during this process. And you've gone to the next permanent atom. So you're not dawdling on those subplanes and getting off in tangents. You can get some of the information probably given to you of what's on there, but you're not going to get lost. Like what, Hansel and Gretel in the forest or something. They're putting down there, supposedly going to follow their breadcrumbs on the way back, but the birds ate them or something. What is that story? Okay, you don't know that one. Hansel and Gretel. It was Hansel and Gretel, wasn't it? Doesn't anybody else know Grimm's fairy tales? Anyway.
I know, but I can't tell them in English. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but so they lost their way back, right? Because they didn't
have the crumbs.
Right. Yeah, the birds ate the crumbs or something like that. So what I'm saying is, yeah, there's a lot of people do some of these journeys and then they're off on a tangent. They don't know what, first of all, the majority of them, because like you said, they don't know about the thing. If something real happened to them, they don't even know what happened to them. They have nowhere to categorize it because they don't even know it exists. So yeah, they really look like nuts. And you're not going to necessarily cover all that up. When the time comes, you may very well be vocal about it. So when you were saying that, if you have these experiences, then people just think you've lost it or you're on drugs or you're whatever, kind of thing. If you're very fortunate, you'll have people who will stand by you and just watch and pray for the best, hoping you're going to come out of it.
Eventually you get drawn to what you need, though. You attract what you need. It does come. But it wasn't as available, I don't think, as it is probably now. There's a lot more people talking about it, I think, now.
Yeah, well, it's and that's kind of why I'm talking about it. I'm saying, first of all, this is normal. In as much as it's in the normal course of human evolution, it's just on our horizon, so it's new to us.
Yeah.
Okay. But and I'm sure every planet, well, the planets are at different levels. We're supposedly at that the subjective planet is at level of fifth, level 5, if you will, fifth initiation, but the physicality of our planet is not. And so the planet itself can't take its fifth initiation because you got to have all of it in the same range to have that experience. Now, it is said in DK that Venus is a 6th degree, has already achieved a 6th degree. They're a 6th degree initiate, and the Nirmanakayas, well, it won't be Nirmanakayas. There's another name for the ones the 8th and 9th degree initiates are between us and there. You've probably read about it because it's there. He talks about it. Well, okay. Well, that planet over there might be a 6th degree initiate, but it's got 843 degree methane clouds around it. It's probably not, we're probably not ready for a 6th degree if it reflects anything like that, which it may not anyway. But you take my meaning is we've still got some structure in the 5th degree. Okay. But you're after that, you're going to start dealing with monadic energy after the 6th. You're in that realm. So you're even out of the spiritual triad and you're done with that section. Now, I don't want to go way off on a tangent here, but the point is there's all these different things. And, it's like we may not be ready to our physicality to go over onto Venus. I don't think we do well. And you better be in full consciousness and nothing else. But our physicality, we are designed for what's here. We have the equipment. We've had a deliberate attack on that equipment in the last few years to deter its functionality. You know that, don't you? That design and some of the injections that have been given, I think are supposed to disrupt the pineal pituitary interaction and secretions in order to advance. So, and I believe that was inferred to be deliberate and intentional.
Yeah, and DK says a man is basically his glandular system is, he's just, that's how you can gauge his, growth. And so any disruption of any of the glandular system is, really going to affect our growth.
Yeah, and in this case, I think it was designed for deliberate dysfunction. So somebody knew what they were doing. So somebody actually vindicates what we're talking about. They know this is a reality. They know this is the pathway. And there was a big effort to stop it. Anyway.
But I think the whole system seems to be built up to kind of deter people from the path in that sense. The food that we eat, the distraction, the media, social media, TikTok, and even our routine, most people who work don't have a healthy, natural routine, work too many hours, too tired to think, to reflect. So comes home overwhelmed, goes on social media to distract. It's kind of, the system is built to keep you in
In the matrix.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, in the matrix. It's the wrong bubble.
It may well
So-
be, but by the same token, you don't have to be part of that system. And that's part of what you have to make a choice about. I'm going to go back to you, Donnie, because we've been through this.
Okay.
Okay. In other words, you make those choices. I had discussions with you about, look, you want to do such and such, then
Right. Lots of discussions because I had all sorts of ideas, but then it's that same thing that Paul says, you can do whatever you want, but is that going to get you where you ultimately want to go most efficiently and as quickly as possible? And that's a continuous weighing out
yeah, because you don't
every
go,
day.
yeah, until it becomes your life pattern. And then,
And it does.
yeah, but it's a choice made. And it's to get through those doors of initiation, I think they still call them that. Okay, to be able to pass through, to take those major, you don't take the third initiation. In other words, the masters call it the first one. There's a reason they call it the first one, is because you are then making union with your soul. That's fine. Now you've got that consciousness. But to get there, you had to be willing to give up everything below you. And so what's below you? 2 planes and 3 sublevels. You have to be willing to walk away. Because if you're going to go further at that stage, where it's that first major one, now you are inviting the connection up into the spiritual triad, which is not in form. It doesn't have this value system. And one thing DK says, if you get what you believe is some intuitional information from the Buddhic plane, because you now think you've got that high level, if it has anything to do with life down here, it's not from the Buddhic plane. It's not from the intuitional plane. That those planes up there want nothing to do with down here. It has nothing to do with the value system. You're not the projections that we have that you're going to, oh, okay, I'm going to die and I'm going to be with my family. Now we get to party up there. We're all going to be together and we're going to just have an extension of the creation here, but we won't have the problems. Okay. That's a projection off the astral plane. Plane number 6. Okay. That's not what's going on up there. That's where the ashrams and the masters and the people who make it through is up on in that spiritual triad. Okay. But it has nothing to do with here. As far as the value system, the life patterns, you had to learn things. You had to learn to be good and kind to people, and understand which way is up here, and value systems, but very misdirected. That's why, if it wasn't, they'd all be up there. They'd all have made these journeys.
Yeah, we just don't. It just hasn't been talked about enough, and we can't talk about it enough. But what I want to go back and correct myself when I say a lot of people are talking about it, they are not talking about it in this way. There's a lot of spiritual discussions, but there is not a lot of requirements and the rules of the road and the actual transformation that the life expression changing. There's not a lot of that's talked about in very emotional ways for the most part, in a lot of circles. because, it's like diet spirituality. They want it, but they don't want it, the whole commitment. You don't want to, go the way. But the interesting part about what, as you were saying that, what I saw was, how do the whole teaching is to get to be still and know that I'm God, or be quiet, that whole part there that the Bible talks about. It's what all of the saints and sages and then everybody's always said. The whole of the teaching is to be still and be silent. And we're talking about it in this way, and letting go of everything down here. But we've got to get to somehow living in this daily life, and then get to know life and know earth for that time that you talk about, that you have to be able to let it all go completely. Your identity, whatever identity and everything has to be gone and that's the whole point of meditation, I think. And be still and know that I'm God. So it's just a matter of how we talk about getting to that point.
Yeah, well, and they all say, look within, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I would say, in those regards, getting to the third, we aren't, talking about, like, we went through white magic. We've talked about glamour a lot, and getting through the astral plane, the emotional plane. But, what does it take to get through that? And what does that look like for people? I think that's probably a really important discussion too.
Most certainly, because he indicates that's basically where most everybody is.
They need to get through the second.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, because there's so many different things that can happen. I was around when the 60s started. And so one of the big deals was that people, aside from the psychedelics themselves, like I remember they made a light machine that plugged kind of into your some way into your musical system, and then had all these different colored lights to go with the notes or the tunes. Well, that was a big deal then. Oh, wow. And then so somebody dropped some acid that Timothy Leary was around at that point in time. He hadn't gone to hide in Baja yet, but in fact, I think he was doing a lot of that with people and the acid in Baja. And but anyway, then they have phenomenal experiences in their mind because they're scintillating some of their sensory apparatus and sending them back a different message than normal. So, woo, wow. Okay, they go berserk over that. And that is an awakening. That's an opening to saying, we're not all just that old standard milk toast that we've been up until 1964, or some of the beatniks probably did it. That was their name in the 50s in New York, the Watts and so on and so forth, which were an avenue into where we went. And the major groups initially, the Doors and those guys, they were looking to create a spiritual journey. They just got overdosed, is really probably what happened there. But that was what was inside of their world. But the minute you opened up any phenomena on that astral plane in terms of their senses or something, they are just gaga. Oh my God, like this is a big deal. And they get wrapped up in that. And I've run into people who've had a spiritual experience, and they have literally spent the rest of their life trying to get back to it. And that's the other key. You don't get back to it. You go forward. And that light's burnt out. I used to explain it like a sparkler. for the 4th of July. Okay, you have this experience, there's this energy, you are involved with it. Okay. And when it's done, you're done with it. You can't relight that sparkler. You've gotten everything that is there. So don't go back and try to get that sparkler going again. Move on. Let that go. You had that experience and just be sitting there. Okay, that one's done. I'm not going to hang on to it, but I'm going to be receptive and ready for the next one by just being open and not, because if you hold on to it, it's like a room where you got a hoarder. Eventually you can't move in it. And you're
Becomes
not
a
going
dud.
that
It,
again.
it becomes a dud.
Yes,
Once that firework burns out, it's useless after that.
it's gone. Yeah. But you had a great light show sometimes or
Right.
experience that was open to you. But yeah, and and then you just, the next one, and who knows when it'll come.
Well, you had said something to me, and I'm not sure if I'm cutting you off right now. I might be. I'm sorry.
So,
But you had said something to me, and probably Tom, years ago, where you say, well, it's mechanical. I never understood what you meant at the time because I hadn't been involved in this long enough to see the cycles, how each turn of the cycle, then it kind of repeats itself. And the process, you kind of go through the same process over and over again. And you're just faced with yourself at the next level each time to deal with kind of like a little things on a deeper level or a different level, literally. And, but that's very important too, because once you really get going on this, if you're paying attention, you can start to say, okay, and we can get comfortable. It's not strange anymore.
right. And when you deal with Annie Besant, she will talk to you because she talks about that chart and the involution and then evolution. But everything is a reflection of a reflection of a reflection of a reflection of God, of that monad that's being reflected down. So the mechanical process is no different. It is no more innovative than the reflection of the reflection. It's just that each time now we're working our way back up. But each time the process, it is a mechanical process. And yes, you will begin to recognize, oh, okay, well, yeah, it's kind of the way it was last time, except you will be bringing you something different. You're now in a different territory. And you're moving on, you're moving up, and you got to remember, you're not going to recognize once you start moving into that Buddhic plane, which is spiritual. Nobody, don't have to worry about what color dress you're going to wear today, how the hair looks, none of that, because that's not there. So then what you're reaping is different. And that's what you're talking about, is that, but you're moving up. And then you've got to go through, if we're going to talk about this, then DK has a process. Ultimately you're looking for the revelation, but that's the last thing you get when whatever it is that came to you, that you interacted with, that you now is part of you. And so then eventually there will be a reveal, what he calls a reveal. It'll take a little bit of time because we're in time. So you have it, but it has to process down. And then you get a revelation or the reveal of what it says, what it is, how important it is, and then you just bank that like everything else and be ready.
Move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's truly, so it's not.
That's very interesting that, that's a huge part of this for people to understand. You have the experience, let it go and wait eventually for the understanding or revelation or identification, whatever it is that comes, recognition, whatever comes with it.
Yeah, and DK explains it all, but it takes a long time to figure out what, okay, so what does the reveal mean? You know, it takes, because actually you were talking about it the other day, and because we were talking about that, and I said, well, that is the reveal. That's what he talks about, that with each experience, it takes a while, and then it somehow makes sense and reveals what it represents. But it is a mechanical process that is over and over and over. It's just like the working up to an initiation is basically part of that mechanical process at each stage, you know, because there's a lot of little sub levels you got to get to before you get to a major. So, but it's part of us, you know. We have made the journey. Oh, and the other thing when we were talking about that, if you need help on this journey, you will get it. Okay. There probably aren't enough human beings doing this yet that they're going to be overloaded upstairs. Okay. So there will be help there if you need it. It comes this process fully equipped with the things that you need, because just figure it out. Somebody made the first one. Okay, so human beings have gotten through it all, so don't worry that it can't be done, because it can.